Hey guys, how are y'all today? That was weird. Usually there's a song that plays with that, and evidently Facebook doesn't like it. Somebody has decided that they own the rights to it. I have no clue, but that's kind of weird. Good to see y'all today. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can hear me. I am getting ready to go to Novi, Michigan tomorrow. So if you're going to be there this weekend, please stop by and say, hey, I'll be in the LeBou booth. Good to see you, Yvonne. Good to see you, Joyce and Sandra and Cindy and Caroline and Priscilla. And thanks, Caroline, for letting me know the sound's good. Joyce, sorry, not Joyce, Yvonne. I am not sure if it has been totally released yet. It is a US product only. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to get it in Canada. But I mean, if you have a US dealer, they could probably sell you. I do know it's a dealer only product, so it will not be an online product. Like our BES4 is not an online product. So just letting you know that. Oh, sorry, I'm one of those people that sit on their legs, so I had to get in my squat spot here. All right, good to see you, Linda. So today, I've had a couple of questions this week about automatic resizing for SVGs in CanvasWorkspace, and the particular files that I'm going to show you are the ones that they sent me. A maker called Jennifer Maker. She does a lot of stuff with Cricut, Cricut, however you say it. She does a lot of it. She has a lot of SVGs out there, so I do not own the rights to this by any way, shape, or means. You can go to her site, sign up for it. She has a lot of free projects out there. However, I do want you to know how to use them when you get them over to your Canvas Workspace account, if that's what you're going to do. So let me share my screen and I'll show you what we're talking about. Okay. So let me go to this view so that I'm not looking sideways at you. All right. If you go to the SVG button here, and you say import from your computer and you find the file that you want to work. So this one, as you can see, it's from Jennifer Maker. We click open. It says the imported SVG was resized to automatically fit within the red dashed lines on the artboard. Well, that's not optimal. That's not what we want to do. There is a workaround if you happen to have the vinyl auto blade kit. With the vinyl auto blade kit, if you click your artboard, you can select custom size for tiling, okay? Once you do that, you can pick whatever width and height you want. 25 inches is probably a good one to start with. If you then touch the SVG button again and bring that same file in, wait a minute, evidently I need to be taller, so my height is too short, so let's go back and make it 40 inches. Doesn't matter how big I make this because I will actually change it back to my 12 by 12 inch mat here in just a minute. You're just wanting to get it to where you don't get that message that it was automatically resized. Okay. So now we have our SVG on our artboard. You can then go back to your 12 by 12 inch mat and move the items into the field. Okay. So if I then come over and grab these pieces right here or go into my layers menu, I can hide those pieces and send this one to my scan and cut. All right. Once you've done that, you can unhide it, or you can hide it and then unhide the others that you had. And then let's select those three. And then you can move them up into the mat space, which is that's too much for a single mat. But if you have the 12 by 24, you could do it. So I would hide these two and send that one over and cut it out. Then hide it and unhide these two, move them up and cut those out. So that's how you do that. Now, one other thing you need to know about these files, though, is there was one that, let's go new, and let's go back to that artboard that we had. And I'm going to make it, once again, I'm going to make it about 40 inches tall just because I don't want to get that message. We're going to touch SVG again, and I'll pick this one because it's a polar bear. Well, this one, these are all in solid black as their color. And I know that there are multiple pieces in there, and we can't tell what those pieces are. So if you go to your paintbrush, that's your properties, and you change the fill to no color and click OK. Now you have nothing on your board, but click on line and change that to black. Then you can see it. So then if you want to change your colors, let's zoom in on it. If you want to change the, let's say I want this to be a different color. It doesn't matter for anything besides just viewing it. You can go in and change the color of it. But it's simply a view, okay? But that lets you know what you've got. And that will make it a little bit easier to mess with, okay? But once again, I would want to change the artboard back to a 12 by 12 and move what I can move these pieces on. I can probably get this and that on one, and then I can get the other circle and the other polar bear on one. So just kind of letting you know how that works. But if you don't do that, this is what you've got. So these are all of your separate pieces, just to let you know. They're there, but they're separate, okay? All right, so that's that little trick. Now, what did I say I was going to, what else was I going to do today? Well, let me go back and remember what I said I was going to do. That would make things a little bit more helpful, wouldn't it? Excuse me. All right, cross stitch. Okay, before I go to cross stitch, let's come back over here and let me see here. Diana, yes, the SD card will fit into the Luminaire. So it's on the right-hand side above the thumb drives. Just basically push your SD card in there. Make sure that you've set it up, that it's set up, and then just push it in there, and you can send wirelessly that way. Okay. It uses the same SD card, so hopefully you kept your SD card. All right. Where was I going? Oh, P Design cross stitch. All right. Let's see here. P Design. In P Design, if you go to your image tab, there is a cross stitch icon. When you click on cross stitch, you can choose color, sepia, or grayscale. Most of the time, you're going to choose color. And then you select your artwork. So let's say I want to do this sunflower here in cross stitch. Here's my sunflower. I can touch next. Design settings, that's where you set your page size. Let's say I want to go to a 4x4. There you go. You can fit it to your page if you want to make it bigger. You can always resize it later. And then touch next. Now, your cross stitch size, and this is in my book somewhere, the smaller the size, the smaller the stitch. So you can see how you'll get more detail in the smaller you go. But I have specific Aida cloth sizes there. When you touch next, it's going to bring up this window right here. This window allows you to put an outline around it. So if you want to outline areas, you can do so. You have to drag it across. So do you see how it's got a point on it? That's your center. And if you start dragging, it lets you drag. There is no such thing as a half stitch or an 1/8 stitch or any of that in here. It is simply what you see is what you get. But you can, so you see, I can't go cut across that square. I have to go up and down. And now I'm not going to sit here and go around this whole thing. I'm going to sit here and tell you that right now. Way too much trouble. And if I want to remove one, if you, let's see here, right mouse click on it, it goes away. Come on, be nice. And you may find it easier to do this if you zoom way, way in. You cannot bring in a cross-stitch pattern from a book and have it do this. That is not something it can handle. There is a program out there, or at least there used to be one called Cross Stitch Maker, that if you're really into cross stitch and you want to do it the best that you can make it happen, that's what I would tell you to do. Okay. 14 count Aida cloth is usually what people choose. And as I said, that is in my book. I don't, so you can see right here, these are my little outlines, and it's showing you that I've got the outline there. It is in fixed stitch format. That means that black dash line means I can't change anything about this right now. If I wanted to, I can divide by color, and then I could take out that little black line that I added. So I could come in and select this and split stitches, and then I could get rid of my black outline that I added, which I don't really want it there, so I would do that. It would be under cross stitch, Linda. If you look in the table of contents, it will be under cross stitch. Okay. And I'd have to go back and reference it, and it is not on this computer, I'll be honest. Okay, so if I didn't want to do it that way, you can bring in a background. So I can right mouse click and say input from file, and I could go find a piece of artwork. So let's say I wanted to do this in cross stitch. You can do this as well. You can use your drawing tools to do it. So I could come in and remember, Z is straight. So if I wanted to go straight across here, X is curved, and the F7 key on your keyboard will dim it. But let me dim it before I start, because mine doesn't like me. Oops, wait a minute. Should be F7. Wait a minute. F6. There, F6. I was hitting the wrong key. All right, so now I'm good. I'm going to go straight. Switch to my curve tool. Switch straight. Go back to curve. Go back to straight and double click, and it'll close itself in. Now, I can change that to a cross stitch as well. Oops, I do have to select the part, and then I can change it to a cross stitch. If I turn on a running stitch outline, you'll notice that running stitch is not going to be around your crosses. So you need to remember that. That is when you say, I don't want an outline. Your sewing attributes, once again, you can change the size. The smaller the size, the smaller the stitch. Single is going to run 2 times. Double is going to run 4 times. Triple is going to run 6 times. So if you really want a heavy, heavy one, that's what you're going to do, is a triple, and watch it stitch. So let me hide the image. And we'll watch it stitch. And it does random things because it's trying to make this shape out of it. But it basically is going to have six times that it goes around. When it goes to stitch, okay? Get the concept? I'm going to go a little faster here. What was my third one? Oh, okay. Okay, you get the concept. I don't need to sit there and watch that. All right. Now, the third thing that was on the list is a lot of designers, when they do an applique, they have an additional tack down stitch that's a zigzag stitch. In PE Design, it's automatically added unless you take that off. You need to choose zigzag stitch. In BES, you have to do a workaround. So we'll start in PE Design first, and then we'll go from there, okay? So let's see here. Let me change that. I will just change it back to a regular stitch. And let's go ahead and add a few things in here to it. Well, let's turn this into stitch view so we can see through it, and we'll just make this into an applique. So oops, that's not the heart I want. I want the fat heart. There we go. And we'll change that color to red. Doesn't really matter because we're going to turn this into an applique. Then I'm going to grab a rectangle. And we'll come make this into a rectangle. And then we will make another rectangle right here. And then we'll just grab our little open line drawing tool and make us a little curly do here. And we do need that to stitch, so I'll change that to a triple stitch. And then let's grab that same open, actually no, there's another way we can do this. In our import menu, if you go to outline shapes and you go to, let me remember what that is. Let's see if it's miscellaneous. Yeah, miscellaneous. You can find different shapes. So you might like this instead. This one's kind of fun. Or if you want to do exactly what they've done, you can draw the one that they've put in there. That is totally up to you. So let's change that color so we can see what it is. Let's change that to, how about purple? Maybe that's what it was already. And then we'll go home and we'll choose arrange copy and we'll do vertical mirror copy and mirror that over to the side. So now we've got that. And then we need our thread here. So let's go and grab the curved line drawing tool and we'll have our thread coming off here. And so we're the open curved line drawing tool here. I don't know why I decided to get so intricate with this, because this was really not necessary to show you what we were going to do. Then you can draw your needle. So needle, I would probably do close straight line tool and just kind of give myself a little pointy guy. And we'll make him silver without an outline. And I'd probably make that a satin stitch. Okay, so now let's turn off our artwork so we can see what we've got. I'm going to press the F6 key on my keyboard till it goes away. Oh, I guess I need a spool pen, don't I? So let's just draw us a little spool pen here. And we do need that to sew, so we'll do a triple stitch for it. And let's make it black. Okay, so now let's say we want this to be its own we want everything to be its own applique besides the spool. Okay, so besides the spool, and I don't want the spool. So these little accents we're not going to turn into applique. These first three we are. So I'm going to select those first three. We're going to go to our Home tab, and we're going to go to the Applique Wizard. Once you get there, applique material you want to have on. Applique position is automatically on there. Tack down is there, and we want a covering stitch of a zigzag stitch. So if I do that, then I get the zigzag tack down stitch automatically. Choose the width that you want your applique to be. The chunkier the outline, the more likely it's going to be that it will catch. I personally like about 3 millimeters. I'll be honest, that's my preference. So let's go back in an Applique Wizard and make it 3 millimeters. And we'll say okay. And you'll notice that there is a plus sign next to the covering stitch. So if I click on that plus sign, there's my tack down stitch, there's my covering stitch. It's in the same color. So if you don't want it to be in the same color, change the color of your covering stitch to whatever you want it to be. So we'll do that. And we'll change the color of this one to red. That heart's a little bit big, but we'll live with it today. And then you can change the covering stitch of your base to whatever color you want it to be. How about we do that in a tan? Okay. The last thing that I'd really want to do, besides putting these in the order that I want them, is to open up whatever's going to be below. So I would say I would have my black be below. I would still leave the tack down stitch there. So if I come up here and I grab this black and select it, the first thing we need to do is ungroup the whole kit and caboodle. So we're going to grab it all and ungroup. That way we can work with the parts. So I'm going to select that again. And now I can go to my select tool, click my select point tool, right mouse click here, split at point, right mouse click here, split at point, hit the plus sign next to that black piece, select it, move my cursor into the window and delete. Now I don't have a big overlap. I still do have one right here though, because that's where I clicked evidently. So if I don't want it to have that much of an overlap, you do want it to have some, guys, because you don't want it to, what am I trying to say? You don't want the black not to meet, but I don't need that much. So I'm going to come put a point right there, click on the end point and delete it out. Okay. So now you decide what order you want them to be in. And actually, I'm pretty good with the order that they're in. I could live with that. I probably want this color of thread to match the color of thread that I have right there, which would be that one right there. And I'm not real crazy about how that thread spool looks. So for some reason, my rectangle, oh, it's because of the pull compensation. How much pull comp do I have in here? Woo, that's why. So let's change that back to the default, which should be, well, we'll just go down to 0.3. There you go. So I would probably have it going to the right, my angle, to where it looks more like a thread spool than a wonky little piece. And I would probably take this little piece right here and I would put it underneath the sewing machine. And that's how I would do that little applique. Okay. Now, it's a totally different process in BES4. We are not going to go through everything we just went through here, but I'm going to show you the basics of how to get your underlay, that zigzag tack down stitch, because it's a very different process. You're not going to be able to get as intricate. This will work in BES4, BES blue, and BES silver. Okay. I'm somewhat in BES, not BES, SimplyApplique. So let's go over here to silver and let's see here. We're going to add a design and I'm going to add an applique shape. I'll pick one that's that has more than one piece to it. How's that? All right. So here's your appliques. Now, keep in mind that some of these appliques were made before a scan and cut was ever brought out. So if I hit my scan and cut button or my tools tab in BES blue or BES blue or BES4, I do believe it is on the tools tab, you'll find your scan and cut button. They've moved it in BES silver. So if I touch the scan and cut button, I don't want all of that. So let's close that out and I'm going to click off the design. Since this is a built-in applique, it already knows which pieces are applique. So these are the two are the applique pieces. This one right here is not closed. So you would want to go to your tools tab and you would say close the shape. Now, that's very odd, the way that that's done that. So let's see if we can fix that to where it doesn't do that. Oh, the reason it's doing it is because it's two separate shapes. So I would go to my Tools tab and I would edit the shape. And let's see here. All right. I would just split this at points. So let's undo and go back to where it was not closed. Instead of closing your shape, guys, sit here and just move these in. And then go back and take it over and make sure that it matches up with the previous piece. So if I copy that and I go back over to this side right here and I paste it, let's change its color to orange so we can look at it and see. And let's zoom in. So yeah, that would work. All right. Now that we've got our artwork ready, we're going to leave that alone, and I'm going to delete it off of here. What you would do is you would right mouse click on the project. You're going to assume that this is the way you want it. We would copy it and paste it. So now you got two of them. Okay. And those are just the applique pieces. Those are the only things that I copied. You can see here, we've got the first applique and the second applique. Those are the only two that we're copying. Then you would come up here to the original and you would change that applique density. So I've got to get each individual piece here. So I'm going to grab the first one. Of course, you're not going to, yep, there it is, density. And I would change that to 1 and apply it, or 1.5. Now, I'm going to move the top one away so you can see what's happening. What happened? Interesting. That's seriously interesting. That should not be a motif. Let's undo. What happened? Okay. So let's take these two pieces and move them out of the way. So this stops messing with my head. Now we're going to grab those two pieces and we are going to change that density. We're going to try it again. We're going to take it to 1 millimeter. So you see how much lighter that is? Let's try 1.5 and apply that. The other thing that I would tell you is you don't want your stitch length to be that long. So you want it slightly inside of the other. So let's make it to 1.6 and apply that. Stitch width is what I want, not stitch length. You're not going to let me do that, you little turkey. Let's see if it'll let me do it one at a time. There we go, stitch width, one at a time. It's at 3 right now. Let's make it to 2.5. And this can go back to 2. So let me grab this one and we'll do this one to 2.5 as well. And we'll make this one 2 and apply that. So now when I put the one that I copied back over the top of it, normally I would just copy and paste it back down. There you go. It's going to be back in the same way. So that's how you get it. Then I would preserve as stitches and reorder the things, because otherwise they're going to be out of order. So if I go in here and preserve as stitches and then do the same thing to this one. All right, so now I can leave that. I would not need these. So I would leave my first piece, my second piece, and then come and we do not need the extras down here. So I'm holding my control key and getting rid of those. And then you would take this and slide it up behind that guy right there. And then I would take this and slide it up and put it right right behind that one right there. Okay. Then it would sew in the correct order. So you would have your placement stitch, your tack down stitch, and then these are your tack down stitch and your zigzag stitch. If I change the color of that, it may help you a little bit because we can hide this one. So that's your tack. The gray is your tack down. The purple is the covering stitch. They can be the same color. It doesn't matter. That one's a little bit more convoluted because it doesn't do it automatically. There is no, that I've seen, there is no, let me double check. I could be missing something, but let's just do it with a rectangle here. We'll select it. And so, yeah, you don't have that zigzag tack down. So the only way to make it happen is to copy and paste it. Okay. All right. Let's see here. DJ. Yes, there is. I can show you that real quick. So he wants to know if there's a way to do set your attributes for yourself. So if I know that when I use this, let's just do new, that when I draw with a satin stitch, that I want that satin stitch or zigzag stitch to default to, let's say I want it to default to 4 millimeters. And I want underlay on it, and I want, that's good. We'll leave half stitch on. But let's say I want to save that as an attribute. Down here where it says load save default settings, when you touch that, you can say save as, and I can save that as zigzag and say okay. Now, if I load that and I close my program and I go back into my program, and I go to my zigzag, or I grab this and I choose zigzag, you'll notice it is still at 4 millimeters. So that's how you set your defaults. If you want to save something. So if you have a whole bunch of them, I mean, it's not real easy to do it for just one thing. I mean, for an entire item. So, I mean, if let's see here, if let me think. We have a zigzag, it's 4 millimeters. Let's say we want our density to be 6, and we draw it. Oh, wait a minute. Let me undo that. I want to pick that up again. And let's say I want my direction to be 5 degrees. Now, if I come in here and I draw it, and then I save the defaults, and we'll save that as zigzag again, and we'll just do save as, and we'll save it as zigzag again. We will override it, and we will close it. So now I'm going to close it. I'm not going to save any changes. Normally, this would go back to the total defaults. Unless I load something else in, it should hold on to what I just did. So now let's go into our shape tool. You'll notice my direction is 5 degrees, my density is 6, and my zigzag width is 4. So it held on to those attributes. So it depends on what you've got in there with it to show, okay? And you can always load a different attribute. So if you know that there's something you like to do, you can always load a different attribute. If I go back to the default, it will reset all of my items to the default. So when I go back to draw a rectangle, you notice I'm back down to 2. My direction is back to 4, and my density is back to 4.5. So everything's back to the defaults when I do that. If instead I want to go back to that other, I can go to zigzag, load it, and go forth and multiply. The other place that you can get this is if you choose new, you can choose fabric selector. You can have your whatever you've got setting up. And let's say I wanted to do embossing. I say, okay. And now when I go to grab that and I choose, I believe it was a motif stitch, it should load. Nope. Let's load that. Oh no, I know what I picked the wrong thing. Net fill. So normally a net fill is going to default to this pattern right here, and it's going to have different spacing. But with my embossing, that is what I use for embossing. And so there you go. It loaded that automatically for me. All right, guys. And that's how you get back and forth between them. Okay. I don't see any more questions. So I don't know that I have a ton more to cover today. Anybody? I'll give you a minute. All right, go ahead. I'm waiting, DJ. Boy, this is a lot of silence. So, all right. So what do y'all want to talk about next week? Because I'm about brain dead. When using fonts, would the zigzag be the same width as the design? It could. I mean, if you change that zigzag width to 4 millimeters, yeah, you could mess it up. So if I come over here, let's look. Let's load that rectangle in. We'll load zigzag and see. Let's see what happens. So let me go home and select text. All right, so we'll select it, and then we'll come in and we'll change that to a zigzag stitch. And let's see what our zigzag stitch is. No, it did not change that. So it did not mess with my text. Which is interesting. Must be in a different place. Okay. Okay, so yes, there is. It's called print and stitch. All right. So, and that is in P Design. If I load in a piece of artwork, I'm going to do something easy, guys, because that'll make our life a little easier. Let's auto punch that and go next. We are going to go next again, and I'm going to turn off everything besides the blue circle in the center. Okay, actually, we'll leave the black around it. So we're going to stitch the blue circle. We're going to print out the rest of it. So we'll say finish. And you'll notice I only have a big blue circle. Now let's bring our artwork back because it automatically hides. If I go up to the application button and I do print and then I do print preview. Actually, let's try print setup first. Yes, print setup is what we want. All right, image print mode. We would not want to print a flipped image. We would just want to print the image itself. Okay, so you could print that on the sublimation printer, or you could print it on fabric, or you could print it on whatever else you want it to do. Okay, you would want to make sure that's image print mode, and then you would print that. So if I go to print preview, there's my print. So now I would go in and I would print myself a template, embroidery print mode, You can print sewing area and box center. You can do that. You can do a crosshatch, or you can do your snowman positioning mark. You want to do actual size, you can do realistic or normal, either one. Now let's look at that. Here's your print preview for that. The snowman pretty much covers it. Let's see what it looks like with just a crosshair. Crosshair would probably be how I would go with that one, unless I was using the snowman positioning mark on my machine. Okay. So that would allow you to both print and then stitch it out. Does that answer your question, DJ? Oh, for a mock-up. Yes. Okay. For a mock-up, I mean, you could just take a screen capture of this, you've got your background, and then just take a screenshot. Grab your snipping tool, do new, and there you go. So whatever your background image is, you just have your digitized item over the top of it, and that would give you what you're looking for instead of printing and stitching. But that, I mean, if you were trying to get it to print and stitch, that's the way you would go. PHC and PHX. So BES silver and BES blue and BES4, none of those do those. Okay. They are proprietary format, and Pulse has Pulse Tajima is who makes our BES software program, so it will not allow us to bring those in there. But you can bring those into PE Design all day long. Import. And you can choose from a folder or from a network sewing machine, either one. This is where anything besides a PES file is brought in. So you can see I've got a cookie DST, EXP, XXX, depending on the format that it converted it in, depends on what I have there, a VIP file. But file type will let you choose all of the file formats that you want to do. And you'll notice PHX is here, PHC is here, Joanne. So that's how you get those in to play with them. I don't know where I have a PHX file or a PHC unless I go to Network Sewing Machine. Do I have either one of those on? That's a good question. I don't know if I have any of those on. No, the new blue does not do it, nor does silver. Silver is the new program. Blue is last year's or the year before. Yep, none of my machines are on, guys. I must have unplugged them when I went someplace, or the power went off when I went someplace. So that's just gonna go round and round. The circle's gonna go round and round and round and round. All right. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to say goodbye for the day because I do have quite a bit of packing to do yet. Come by and see me in the booth. I shall be there. The new silver is not going to do that, but it is going to read the larger. It's going to read PE Design 11 files. So that is a plus. If we didn't know, we won't have to save it as a lower version in order to use it. So that's a plus. But in order to comply with Brothers, even though they're our partner, but in order to comply with their end user licensing agreement, they cannot have that in there. Okay. All right, guys. Then I don't see anything else. So I'm going to say goodbye for today. Y'all have a great rest of your week. And I shall see you another Tuesday, probably next Tuesday, hopefully. All right. Y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.